Now, let's continue our conversation around the new Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy. Mr. Oyedele, Nigeria's new Finance Minister, now steps into office facing a complex economic landscape marked by elevated inflation, currency pressures, and lingering social fallout from reforms introduced under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Now, appointed earlier this week on Tuesday in a major cabinet reshuffle, Mr. Oyedele inherits a fragile macroeconomic environment where cost of living pressures remains elevated despite recent policy adjustments aimed at stabilizing public finances and attracting foreign investment. Now, as a Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, he will be responsible for steering fiscal policy at a time when Nigeria is still grappling with the effects of fuel subsidy removal, foreign exchange reforms, subdued real income growth, alongside a challenging global environment. The challenge is compounded by weak revenue generation and a narrow tax base, which continues to constrain fiscal space. At the same time, debt servicing cost remains elevated, limiting room for expansionary spending, placing further strain on public finances. Well, joining me this afternoon is Dr. Titilayo of Fowokan. She's a tax and finance expert, Deputy Vice President of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, and also the Principal Consultant, FTC Professional Services. She's live in the studio for us to have this conversation. Good afternoon, ma, and thank you so much.
Good afternoon, Tolu. It's nice being with you again.
It's been a while.
Yes.
And most times when you're here, we talk tax. Good to have you. Thank you so much for coming. I think we should start lightly with the man Oyedele. This is somebody I had known from the days of PwC, where he used to be my guest. He appears on this show. He's always here. We always have to talk about everything, policies of government and all of that. So you also know him. Of course, he has something to do with CITN. He's everywhere and all. Tell us a bit about that, and before we move into what we expect from him in this new office.
Thank you, Tolu. Like you said, Oyedele is a known person. Apparently, I worked with PwC too.
Wow.
So we knew each other right from that time, and it's been known to be consistent. When you talk about consistency, it's always said the way he believes things should be done. And I was not surprised when it becomes a case of, oh, you always talk, come and do. And that was what really happened when he was to chair the Presidential Committee for Tax and Fiscal Reform. We saw what happened all the while. It's actually a big issue if you have to do a complete overhaul of the tax laws. And he wasn't working alone. Definitely was working with people, but taking that leadership role and working with the different stakeholders was quite something that I want to say. He tried to manage all the different stakeholders. So for me, we do not expect it to just quickly come and the next will be the Honorable Minister of Finance, but we were looking at, oh, this is a new role of the Minister of State, and maybe you will have to stabilize and understand, coming from the world of Pricewaterhouse to the government circles. Probably need some time to settle down, but we cannot stop whatever God has got to happen. So I guess that's what has happened. The only thing we can do is, as professional colleagues, give all the support we can give for him to succeed in his endeavors, and also some insights into things that we believe would help him to be able to deliver. It's a challenging time that is taking over. I quite agree with you. There are quite a lot, and there's pressure everywhere within the country. And you can imagine, if you're talking about coordinating the whole economy, it means that you must be able to now work with other ministries. And that also will be another area where it would have to now get into, coming from the private sector angle. But I believe that for him to have worked on the reform, it would have been understanding what's going on. And I really wish him success as it takes up this big shoe.
Indeed, it's a big shoe. You know, tax experts, former partner at PwC, which you said, technocrat with deep experience in fiscal reforms. That is in bracket. But the job here is more than fiscal reforms. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, it's more. And I think even before he became the chairman of the fiscal reform, he's also spoken about the economy. Yeah. And has shared his experience in that area too. And one thing I know is that PwC is not a place where you probably just wouldn't be able to have an idea of what's going on within the finance space, and consider that he's a chartered accountant, he's a tax practitioner, and he's also into economics, you know, analysis. So I believe that it's a bigger responsibility, no doubt about that. It requires being able to work with the team. You can't take away the experience of those who are currently in that place for him. So it's just like you're learning to operate in a new environment, not your usual comfort zone, which I believe that by now it would have been going through some orientation to get, and I believe there will be an handshake, an handover, which will also probably bring him into the limelight of what it entails. Coming to coordinating the economy, that means all other ministries
would
have to work together, and that means that it's going to be a requirement of him being able to get other ministers to flow and work with him and get their buy-in into most of the economic issues that are going to be bring forward, and not forgetting that we have the central bank, which is also another determinant when it comes to industry and the monetary policy side of it. So it's a big work, but I believe that with the right spirit, with the right team, and God above all being on his side, he would be able to move. I won't say immediately hit the ground running, because I know what it would be if you're carrying a shoe that's bigger than you. You still have to adjust your legs to make. But I believe that it's something that is workable. There are actually mixed feelings.
Indeed.
Will he be able to? But I really don't believe in the negativity. I just believe, let's be encouraged. Let me put it that way. It's someone that I know he would understand the terrain, and he will look for how to navigate it.
Let's talk about the tax reforms, and because I know you played CITN, and you, in your personal capacity, played an important role in this. You know, I always say it every time, most times on air. You, Mr. Albert Folorunshaw, those are the people that have educated me about these tax laws. Now, let's talk about the tax laws and what Oyedele tried to do, all of the back and forth then. Now, I think we've gotten to a point where implementation has started, and there's no much of pressure or noise anymore. What is happening?
Well, I would say there's no pressure or noise. Okay. You know, change is inevitable. But when there's change, you also have to learn to acclimatize and start building that resilience to adjust to the change. A lot of people will not say we don't hear about tax again now. We've said in the local language, there's been so much engagement. Yeah, he in his personal capacity have tried to make sure that you get it in form of role play, you get it in form of talks, you get it in form of music. If I sing it again and again, tax reform has come to play. So quite a lot of people are trying to look at this implementation. We are now in the implementation phase. We know two of the laws started off last year, and that's the NRS and the Nigerian Revenue Service Act, as well as the Joint Revenue Board. For now, Joint Revenue Board has started working. They've had meetings and discussed what it's required of them to implement the new law. I know they've also have harmonized version of the subnational laws, which they're working on. So maybe that's why you think everybody is still trying to...
Okay, everybody's trying to straighten up one or two things.
And between the month of January and March, there was a lot of running up and down. And that's because the Nigerian Tax Act is effective from 1st of January. Okay. And the Tax Administration Act. So knowing fully well that for every law, you have a compliance requirements, and you also have the punitive side of it, which is the penalty. So everybody was trying between January and March. I need to file my return. Corporates has filed their own. I have to file my individual return. And the fact that every Nigerian, as long as you are registered, as long as you have an income, as long as you have something you're doing, you've got to file your return. So it's everybody's just trying to get that. I can confirm the number of calls I got the month of March when everybody got the notice from Lagos Internal Revenue Service that 31st March, you must file. After that, nothing again. You got penalty. But thank God that there was some relief again. Okay, we're moving it to 14. We're moving it to 21st. So that also allowed people to understand what to do, what are the obligations, and maybe that's why you're saying the noise. So it is the pain, especially for those in the informal sector. We were able to understand. And we consultants had a lot to do because we had to be doing education. We had to tell them, how do you register? How do you file? And do that middleman approach to bridge the gap between...
So it was more work for tax practitioners.
More work. More work because we have to start learning too. And I will tell you, because we're talking about over 30, 40 laws that have now been collapsed into 4. So you as a consultant, me as a consultant, I have to also learn. What I've learned before, fine, I may not remove them, but I need to now learn new things. And if I've studied a particular section 20 of CETA, I must know whether it's the same section 20 of NTA. And look at that. And the fact that the administration part of it has also been pulled out and put together in an other act means when you're reading the Nigerian Tax Act, we're also looking at the Nigerian Tax Administration Act to see because there's a reference to the 2 acts. So for consultants, we have to also battle with that because you cannot give what you don't have. Never that could not a bet. You must give you can only give what you have. So we're also trying to ensure we understand, and when we are guiding properly. So it's everybody. So I can say all of us are enjoying the new terrain, learning, removing some things we've learned and bringing in new things so that we are well informed. And the international community is there because they're also asking questions. How is my business going to be affected? You've now come up with your regime. There's a minimum effective tax rate that I now need to look about. So they're also asking questions. Multinationals are also asking questions. So everybody is now in the mood of, let's see how this law would affect us. So probably after we have now studied it, we are now getting acquainted to what it takes. Filing session for corporates is by June, majority. And by then, a test of what happens from the implementation on the filing side may also make people to have more to contribute to the development of the tax. Knowing fully well that the Nigerian Revenue Service is also doing a lot. Because now we are still trying to digest the law. Now we are talking about Rev 360. Which is a new platform. We are going to be moving from Tax Pro Max to Rev 360. So
technological advancement. Even that building alone I saw in Abuja, I saw a lot of innovation, technological driven.
So it's now going to be a way of everybody, even for those of us that are consultants, we have to move from whatever conventional way we do things to now moving to the technology era. And that's a lot of things that are going on. We know the e-invoicing is still there. And we're now having this new platform, which to me is more robust and it makes our life easier. But nothing new that you see that will not come with its own challenges and you trying to get your service to it. So I can say we are moving to a new era where transparency will now become required for everybody, whether you're a taxpayer or a consultant. Everyone must be transparent in what we do.
Interesting stuff. Now, Mr. Oyedele is coming at a time where we have elevated inflation, pressure on our currency, then the reforms, the almighty reforms, which we've talked about many times. The fallout of these reforms, which everyone is expecting that, we're at a point where economists and experts I speak to on my show, they will tell me we're consolidating on the gains of these reforms before the Middle Eastern war now came in. So it's really a challenging time. And I remember I spoke to him, Mr. Oyedele himself. Yes, I spoke to him, I think about 2 weeks ago or so, and I asked him this question. I said, well, nobody prepares for things like this, but it has come. We now have to start getting strategies for us to be able to address this fallout. But my question to you really is, looking at all of these issues, where do we start from?
That's a big one. And I think macroeconomic stabilization is necessary.
Very, very necessary.
Because I can recall that we used to have inflation rate at 1 digit at some point. But just of a sudden, it started growing and became 2 digits, and we are now still grappling with it. So it would be good if we can actually look into that area, because businesses are affected, and a lot of the informal sector, our sustainability is also dependent on the informal sector, because they actually do a lot, contribute a lot in terms, they have the highest number of employment and things like that. And they are actually feeling the brunt of all these reforms. They are feeling the brunt. So it will be good to see how best can they be given consideration, such that it's easier. You know, I will want to take back to Oyedele's comments. He always says the reform is looking at the vulnerable. The reform is looking at that man on the street, that there are a lot of questions that was asked before they came up with the provision, and that's where we had the 800,000 0% tax rate, so that anybody within the low-income bracket will be, but
no tax.
There are other things they battle with. Even if there's a 0% tax on that income, the fact is that even the cost of living is a problem. So one of the things that I want to see is that the man on the street can say, oh, after the new minister came in, I can afford to buy more with the money I have. You know, that purchasing power, it's a big problem. And if that confidence is built in to sing your song is easy if you can get that man on the street that the voice is very loud to say something. Even if every other person is saying no, and that man on the street whose voice is very loud is shouting and saying, I don't agree with you, is doing something. You just see everybody will be looking at, what's wrong with this man? He's calling attention for you. So it will be good to look into those things. And the tax reform has been done, but it's not just to do the implementation. So I'm really looking forward to the implementation committee who are going to now take it to the next stage. I actually don't believe in being forced to comply. I believe in voluntary compliance. And anywhere I talk, I tell people, I said, try to key yourself into the reform. What do you need to do to comply? Understand it and do it. So implementation is also an area which would not make the work done just to be jettisoned. It will make it to have results. And almighty NNPC, because why are we suffering from the global shock, the Iran-US war? It's because we're so reliant on the global oil price. I want to appreciate what is going on within the country for the likes of Dangote Refinery.
Everyone is commending
It's really helped us a lot. We would have been in a big problem by now. But the fact that we have someone who has said no, I'm for the people and their life should be better, has really made it easier. But if we can get the NNPC Limited to be up and running, it will also reduce the pressure. It's so sad that we how do I put it now? We export what we don't have. Let me put it that way. Because if we have to import crude to be able to refine here in Nigeria, then it means we have it here. So there's a problem.
I get your point.
So that needs to be looked into also. These are things that I know they are not easy tasks. They've been there before he came in, but I'm praying that God will help and give him some wisdom to be able to...
We pray a lot in Nigeria. Yes, I also pray. I'm a Christian. I go to church. I pray. But sometimes there are some things that just stare us in the eyes. But before I let you go, you know, we talk about policy ideas and all of that. You know, as I'm looking at the outlook for the economy, I'm seeing how can we also turn these ideas into, you know, economic relief for the people? Because the people, just like you talked about, the vulnerable ones, really want to be impacted. Some will tell you, oh, the big companies now are doing pretty well. They're all enjoying this policy of government. But that man at that garage, at that booker that wants to eat that 500 naira meal will tell you it might not be, because my next conversation is agriculture. You know, so, you know, when you look at this, how do we turn these policy ideas to, you know?
I must say that we need to sort out this problem of insecurity and insurgency. It's a big issue. And because the farmers are not at peace. You go to the farm, and if you talk about Maslow hierarchy of needs, by the time you remove my basic needs of food, clothing, shelter, you've met something in my life. And this is what these people we are talking about are looking forward to. They have food, they can eat and be okay, and their family can be fed. They are not walking naked on the road, and they are also having somewhere to put on their head. And we know what rent means today. So I would suggest that you need to look into this. This populace, this set of citizens are the ones that really would be able to. Let's come to election. How many of the elites go to vote? Because these are the people that will come out and say they are voting. And so they have so much expectation from the government. They're looking forward to, they can wake up, they can sleep with their two eyes closed. They are not running away. Nobody is coming to pick them in the night and start killing them, shooting them. So the issue of insecurity is critical. The number of deaths that we're recording is so painful. So we can look at that. And then you talked about agriculture. I was saying so, I said, if all of us that speak grammar are able to go back and do something in a different, smaller ways.
Yeah, but I agree. I agree. Yeah, I agree. Growing up, we used to have a small space behind my house. And I remember then we used to get one or two things from there, vegetables, small tomatoes. I remember.
Gardens, they are able to just pluck it. They eat fresh. You don't have something that's already contaminated or polluted, and then taking it from one place is already raw before it comes from the long farm. So we can't say anything without talking about agriculture, and then we cannot also leave technology. Digital services, digital economy is the way now everybody's going.
Interesting conversation. Dr. Titilayo Fowokan, let me call her full names. That's her full name. She's a tax finance expert and CITN's deputy vice president. And I think this is a new baby, principal consultant, FTC professional services. Congratulations, Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take a break. We already whet your appetite with our next conversation.